Hello and welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 12th April 2025. In today's session, we will cover two important and anticipated topics for your prelims and mains examination from today's article in The Hindu and the Indian Express newspapers. First, we will discuss the caste census, analyze its implications on the policy making, welfare distribution, and the constitutional and legal debates surrounding it. Next, we will look into the Office of CAG of India, will examine its constitutional mandate, powers, functions, and its role in ensuring the transparency and accountability in public finances. After that, in our simplified section, we'll take up 5 articles and we will try to explain them in simplest language possible to enrich your understanding of the newspapers. Additionally, we have also incorporated some prelims pointers which is going to be very crucial for your upcoming prelims 2025 examination. So have a look on them also and stay tuned. So let's start our discussion with the first topic, that is Counting Castes, a new chapter in India's social mapping. The context of this topic is that a report which was prepared by the Karnataka's State Commission for the Backward Classes has been accepted by the Karnataka Cabinet, and there will be a discussion that will be held on this report in the next State Cabinet meeting. And this topic, caste census, pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 1, population and associated issues, and syllabus of your GS paper 2, government policies and interventions. If you look into the historical context of this caste, you can trace it back during the Vedic period where Varna system was prevalent. But that was not so rigid. There was fluidity in the Varna system. There was social mobility possible in the Varna system. However, during the later Vedic period and after the later Vedic period, slowly and gradually the Varna system culminated into a rigid form of the structure which can be called as the caste system. And caste can be defined as a social hierarchy or social grouping based on the birth, social status, or the employment of the person. Whereas the census is an exercise of enumeration of the population of any country. And in any of the census, the official enumeration of the population, when we include the information about the different caste of the population, that can be termed as the exercise of the caste census. If you look into the historical context of caste census in India, in year 1871-72, when the first synchronous census was conducted in India, and it was conducted under the Census Commissioner W.C. Plowden. It was the first time when the caste census was conducted, and it did not cover the whole India. Rather, it covered only the northwestern front provinces, central provinces, Bengal and the Madras region. More than that, you people tell me in the comment box that who was the Viceroy of India when this first synchronous census was conducted in India. As well as Mr. W.C. Plowden, who was the Census Commissioner, he said, based on the data, based on the feedback that he got in the enumeration exercise of this caste in the census itself, he said that this exercise of keeping the data or taking the data related to the caste in the census is very confusing, and it will not lead to good result in the longer term because of the confusion that is surrounding along the caste, because of the huge amount of caste system that is prevalent in India and different categories of the caste that are there. More than that, the nomenclature that is used by different castes, that is also very confusing. So the Census Commissioner back then in 1871-72 itself said that this will not lead good result in the longer term. After that 71-72 census, in the year 1881 and 1931, the census which was conducted, that also enumerated all the castes in India. If you talk about what happened after independence, the first census that was conducted after independence in year 1951, there was no caste enumeration. An exception was provided to the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes whose data was incorporated in the census to ensure that the ideas of the social justice is fulfilled, to ensure that the affirmative actions can be provided properly. Whatever the founding fathers have envisaged under the fundamental rights like Article 15, Article 16, etc., the affirmative exceptions that has been provided, so that all that can be fulfilled, the information about the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes were kept under the official census after the independence. In year 1961, the government of India advised the states to conduct their own surveys and draw up the state-specific other backward caste list. And there were some states who have drawn these kind of list. More than that, in year 2011, the government of India has done the socio-economic caste census, in which they have identified 46.7 lakh caste in India. And with 8.2 crore errors were found in the caste and the subcaste which was categorized the data that we got. More than that, what was the major issue with this socio-economic caste census was that it was conducted by Ministry of Rural Development and Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry, who do not have proper experience in conducting the census in India. For example, as of now, the Registrar General of the Census is an office under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and to conduct census is the domain of Ministry of Home Affairs, and this Registrar General of the Census or the Census Commissioner have more experience. They are well versed with this exercise of the census. So when this socio-economic caste census was conducted by the different ministries other than the Ministry of Home Affairs, obviously they find it very difficult to get proper data. As compared to that, the Bihar caste survey which was done recently, they have better data because of the integration of the technology that they did while doing that survey. Because of the questionnaire that were prepared already, and based on those questionnaire itself, the opinions of the people, the feedback, the responses of the people were incorporated. So when we already have the questionnaire, when we already have a set of list, only from that list people have to choose, we will have a better result. So as compared to the socio-economic caste census, the Bihar survey yielded better results. Now, what are some of the arguments for the caste census? The first is the social imperative. The caste is still relevant in most of the spheres of the people's life. And the founding father of the constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, said that caste is a state of mind, it's a disease of minds, but still it is relevant in 21st century, still it is very much relevant in the 2025 itself, even after the 75 years of independence. Even if you look into the marriage aspect, as per the IHDS survey, the India Human Development Survey, more than 95% marriages are happening in the same caste. Only 5% marriages are the intercaste marriages. And the endogamy and the exogamy, the Gotra exogamy as well as caste endogamy that is followed, that is again support the idea of the caste itself. More than that, when you look into the elections, that starting from giving tickets to the candidates to ultimate casting of the votes, every factor or every particular stage, there is the caste that is kept in mind by the voters, by the political parties as well as by the candidates itself. And it is not only limited to the national level elections, be it the assembly elections or be it the local level elections of the sarpanch or the urban local bodies. The caste plays a very significant role. The people generally choose their candidates, people cast their votes based on the caste of the people who are contesting the elections. More than that, if you look into the intra-party democracy, the democracy that is within the party, the presidents of the party, be it at the district level, state level or the national level, there again the caste plays a huge role in determining that who should be holding the post in the party or during the government. Because people understand that caste is still inherent in the minds of the people, and that is the reason we can see that elections are also determined by the caste. The caste surname, even if you look at the Aadhaar cards, PAN cards or even the IDs of the people or any form that any person is filling, again the people use their surnames as their caste name itself. And because of these social imperatives, the people are saying that when the caste is so much significant across different aspects of the life, so we should get the data about the caste in the census itself, so that all these aspects of the marriage, elections and everything can be tackled very well. For example, the caste-based discrimination that is happening. For example, instead of merit-based election, the caste-based election that are happening, that can be tackled well. The administrative imperative. For example, there are various schemes that are being run by the government. For example, there is a scheme with the name of Shreyash, which is under the Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare. Now, this scheme generally provides the financial assistance to the OBC, SC persons who want to study for the higher educations outside India. Now again, the beneficiaries is being determined based on the caste of the people, whether they belong to OBC or the SCs. Or the PM Vishwakarma Yojana. Or there are other schemes like Stand Up India scheme, which was launched to promote the entrepreneurship skill. Again, the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes were one of the targeted population under the Stand Up India scheme. So when caste is so significant, to even get the benefits of some of the policies or the initiatives of the government or the schemes of the government, it would be prudent to get an idea about the caste as per the proponents of the caste census. As well as it will also help in better getting the data, as well as identifying the inclusion and the exclusion error in the caste of the persons or the caste census, or people. The government will have better data. For example, as of now, to give benefits to the various people across different castes, the socio-economic caste census is being used. But when we will have a better caste census data, the inclusion and exclusion error can be tackled well. Then the legal imperative, the constitutional mandate of the social justice to provide affirmative actions to improve their efficiency, to ensure that the representation of the people of the other backward class, scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes can be increased across the employment, across the educational institutions. For that, again, we need better data, and that is the reason with the caste census we will have better data, and we will be able to fulfill the goal of affirmative actions. We will be able to improve their representation. The moral imperative, the elitism that is prevalent in the society, the dominant caste which is based on the political as well as the economic status in the society. So this would be better tackled. The people who are at the lower rung of the society, they would be identified. The better beneficiary schemes can be made, as well as the welfare of these people can be targeted very well with the better data of the caste census as per the proponents of the caste census. As well as the economic imperative, with the better data of the caste, we will be able to map the caste and the class overlap. The class of have and have nots, the people who have better resources or economic resources, and people who do not have proper economic resources. Is there any overlap? That, for example, as per the multidimensional poverty index, the report of the 2021, out of 6 persons, 5 people who are multidimensionally poor, they belong to other backward class, scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. And more than that, 129 million population out of the scheduled tribes population, 65 million are scheduled, 65 million people are multidimensionally poor. So that shows that there is somewhat overlap between the caste as well as the class, as well as the lack of resources that these people have. So when we will have better data related to the caste, obviously we will be able to give them better targeted schemes which will yield better results in the longer run. More than that, the employment patterns also. If you look into the representation of the lower caste people, other backward class people, scheduled class people in the higher positions like secretary level positions or the judiciary level positions, that is very abysmal. So when we will have better data, obviously we will be able to provide better representation to them, especially in the higher level bureaucracy and other jobs. But there are some arguments against the caste census. For example, it reinforces the caste system. Obviously, we are tackling with one of this social malaise since independence, that is the caste system. Because of the caste-based discrimination that is happening. Because even you will see in the various media reports that there are various what we can say that there are various permissions which these lower caste people need to take, even for the basic rights like the marriage ceremonies that they will be conducting and everything. So that this to dismantle this stereotype, again, if we are going for the caste census, and when we will identify that there are different castes, and when people will know that they belong to this caste and there is this much of population, as per the critics of the caste census, it will further reinforce the stereotyping around the caste. It will further reinforce the discrimination of the caste. More than that, it is difficult to define the caste because it will lead to administrative nightmare. Because, for example, Sen as a surname is used in the West Bengal by some upper caste people, whereas this is also used by the Barbar community in Uttar Pradesh. So there are a lot of confusion with regard to the different surnames which are used by the different caste people. So people even do not have a complete idea to which specific caste or subcaste they belong to. And when we will go for these kind of the caste enumeration exercise, this will lead to further confusion, and which will be an administrative nightmare for the bureaucracy, and which will lead to further eroding of the resources of the government. As well as other challenges in collecting data. For example, the Sanskritization and the desanskritization process which happened. Again, Sanskritization was given by M.N. Srinivas, and desanskritization was given by Mr. D.N. Majumdar. Sanskritization is a process where the lower caste people try to imitate the food habits, the lifestyle of the people who are in the upper rung of the society. For example, reading religious scriptures. For example, following the food habits of the upper caste people, like only eating the vegetarian foods, or ensuring the lifestyle that they are following, that they will eat only after bathing, after doing some worship to the god. So these kind of lifestyles, when lower caste people try to imitate, which the upper caste people is doing, is the process of the Sanskritization. So when these lower caste people has tried to imitate the lifestyle of the upper caste people, again, and let's suppose they have also changed their surnames, again it will lead to confusion to which specific caste they belong to. Then D.N. Majumdar says that it is not only the one-way imitation that is happening, rather the process of desanskritization is also happening, where the upper caste people try to imitate the lifestyle of the lower caste people to get benefits of the affirmative actions. Again, there will be confusion. And why the Sanskritization is happening? Because the lower caste people generally believe, as per the M.N. Srinivas, that if they will follow the lifestyle of the upper caste people, they will be able to get a better status in the society. So again, when there is so much fluidity, when there is so much social mobility involved in the caste system, obviously it will lead to confusion. Then the caste misclassification that is there. For example, the Dhanuk is a scheduled caste in one of the states, and Dhanka is the scheduled tribe in the Rajasthan. More than that, there is a scheduled caste and scheduled tribe list that is there by the central government. Again, if you will go for making your OBC, SC or the SC certificates, again you will find a mismatch between the caste list that is uploaded by the central and the state governments and what is generally prevalent in the local tehsil level, at the local level, that what is the name of that caste. Again, that leads to confusion. And the proportional representation, that one of the idea of the proponents of the caste census is that when we will identify the number of the people belonging to any specific caste, we will be able to better provide welfare to them. We will be able to provide employment, education to them in a better manner. But again, if you talk about in the employment, what happens, the 14-point roster system that is being followed. What is this 14-point roster system? Let's suppose there is 100 vacancies, or the 100 positions are there that is going to be filled by the exam. Now 27% reservation is provided to the OBC, and when we will divide 100 by 27, it will come around 3 point something, and that means that every 4th position will be reserved for the OBC persons. Similarly, every 7th position is reserved for the scheduled caste population, and every 14th position is for the scheduled tribe, and every 10th position is for the EWS based on the 10% reservation. So as per the socio-economic caste census, we have more than 46.7 lakh castes or subcastes in India. And even if we rationalize, even then we will have so many castes in India. So even if we are following these kind of roster system based on which we are trying to provide these population affirmative action, or we are trying to provide them with the jobs, with so many castes, it will not be prudent in a shorter time to ensure that they are proportionally represented across various employment stages because of the number of vacancies that are there. Every year UPSC generally does not publishes more than 1000 vacancies. In that case, to ensure that all the caste is getting represented every year with the UPSC recruitment exam will not be possible in near 10, 15, 20 or more than 50 years because of the high number of castes that are there. So the critic says that this idea that the caste census will lead proportional representation is also flawed. So what should be the way forward? First of all, it is obviously needed to ensure that better targeting of the schemes are being done so that the poverty that is prevalent, that can be addressed well. So whatever the caste census that is being done, there should be clear objective and guidelines that for what purpose this caste census is being done, whether it is for targeting the beneficiaries or any other purpose. Because when we will have clear guidelines and mandates, obviously the misuse of that data can be minimized. More than that, there is need to ensure that data should not deepen the fault line. That what happens, that because of the caste census demand, and more than that, if you look into in the last few years what happened, that there has been increased demand of caste-based reservation, whether it is the Patidar community or the Jat community, etc. There is increased demand of the caste-based reservation. Now, when we will have the caste census, when we will get the data that, okay, these are the caste and this is the percentage of the population, there may be increased demand of the caste-based reservation. There may be further law and order situation. So it is further going to, government should ensure, the administration should ensure that there should be an anonymity that should be ensured while going for the caste census, if they are going. More than that, there is also need to ensure that the data should not deepen the fault lines, that is between the different communities, between the different caste. And there should be the economic plus caste-based data combination, that we should understand that the economic poverty or the lack of resources is not limited to any one specific caste. The frequency may increase or decrease across different castes, but poverty is prevalent across different castes. So it would be better to ensure that along with the caste, we are also keeping the economic criteria to identify these caste and class and to give them benefits. Also, the digital census should be done, that we incorporate technology properly. We should maintain a proper questionnaire. We should maintain a list of caste itself from which the people has to choose. And there is need for periodic review of the data which is coming, so that the inclusion and exclusion error can be tackled. And the apps that can be provided, the portal that can be provided to the enumerators, there can be preloaded information so that the subjectivity of the enumerator should not impact the data that is coming. Also, we should enlist the sociological, anthropological experts who can create a draft list of the caste specific to each state, and we can publish that list, as well as we can get the feedback of the people, the pressure groups, the self-help groups, civil society organizations. Based on that, there can be an updation of that list, and based on that, we can go for caste census if we are going for caste census in future. Also, there is need for the sub-categorization of the caste. For example, Justice Rohini Commission, which was set up to look after the sub-categorization of the OBC caste, to ensure that the people, only a limited amount of people are not getting the benefit, to identify better identification of the creamy layer in the OBC. Also, in state of Punjab and others versus Davinder Singh and others, which was a judgment that came back in 2020-21. Again, Supreme Court said that it is up to the government, it is up to the legislature to look after the sub-categorization in the scheduled caste also, so that people who could not get the benefits of the scheduled caste affirmative actions that are provided, they can be better identified and they can be provided better benefits. So caste census should be, before going for a caste census, there is need for much deliberation across different parties, across different caste, as well as the different representatives of these groups, so that the data that is coming, that is serving a purpose of the good governance. And this is a mains practice question that you people can write from this topic. Moving towards our next topic, that is Comptroller and Auditor General. The context of this topic is that the Delhi Legislative Assembly Speaker convened a high-level meeting on the reports of the CAG, and this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, constitutional bodies. And you can see in the mains examination, there has been multiple instances from where you can see that from this topic there has been various questions. In year 2024 itself, in the mains examination, there was a question from this topic of the CAG. As per Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, there are 4 bulk walks of democratic system in India. Obviously, one is the CAG, second is the Election Commission, which have the authority of direction, superintendence and control of the elections which are happening at the national level, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha elections, the election of president and vice president, or the elections of the legislative assemblies of the states, as well as the elections of legislative council of the states. Then another is the Supreme Court, which is the guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizens. And the next is which is the watchdog of the merit system in India, the Union Public Service Commission. Now, under the part 5 of the Constitution, Article 148 to 151 mainly talks about the CAG. Article 148, which talks about the office of the CAG itself. Apart from that, it talks about the oaths, affirmations, appointment process of the Article 140 of the CAG itself. And it also gives us an idea about the conditions of the service of the office of CAG. Then Article 149 mainly talks about the duties and the powers of the CAG. Article 150 mainly talks about the form of accounts of the union and the state governments. In what are the forms of account in which these union and the state governments has to prepare the accounts which can be audited at the later part. Then Article 151 talks about the different types of audit reports which would be provided to the president and the at the state level, which would be provided to the governors, who will then lay it down in front of the house. Also, the appointment of the CAG is done by the president under his warrant and seal. Also, the term of the office of the CAG has been given by the parliament under the law, that is the Comptroller and Auditor General of India Duties, Powers and Conditions of Services Act of 1971, which says that the term of the office of CAG would be 6 years or 65 years, whichever is earlier. Also, the CAG can give his resignation to the President of India. Also, he can be removed from his office if there is a proved misbehavior and incapacity. And what exactly is this proved misbehavior and incapacity? That is not defined. Also, he would be removed in the same manner as the judge of the Supreme Court. That is the special majority passed by both the houses. Also, what exactly are the functions of the Comptroller and Auditor General? If you look into the UK model, from where we have actually taken this nomenclature, in UK, the CAG have both the functions of the Comptroller and Auditor General. That they also controls and authorizes the government spending before actually it's happened. But in India, the CAG have only the functioning of auditing itself. That is the ex post facto. That they are just doing the post-mortem. Whatever the expenditure that has been already done, they are identifying that whether that was authorized by the law, whether that has been done in a proper manner or not. So Article 150 mainly talks about the CAG advises the president with regard to the prescription of the form in which the accounts of the center and the state shall be kept. Means what is the mechanism of the forms that needs to be followed. Article 151 talks about that CAG submits the audit reports relating to the accounts of the center to the president, who shall in turn lay them before both the houses of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And similarly, they will also submit the audit reports of the state governments to the governor, and who will lay that in front of the state legislatures. Article 279 talks about that CAG ascertains and certifies the net proceeds of any tax or the duty, and CAG's certificate in this regard is final. Also, there has been other functions that has been provided under the Comptroller and Auditor General Act of 1971. There are different types of audit which are conducted by the CAG. For example, the legal and the regulatory audit, that CAG tries to ensure that all government expenditure is authorized by the law or not. For example, after the annual financial statement, which is provided under the Article 112, is laid before the parliament, then there at the last stage there are appropriation act that are passed, which authorizes the withdrawal of the money from the consolidated fund of India. Now CAG tries to look into that whether whatever the expenditure that is being done for different schemes or different ministries, whether that was authorized by the law, whether that was passed by the parliament or not. Also, the CAG verifies that the fund have been utilized for the intended purposes or not. The purpose which was passed by the parliament, or whether that same purpose is that money is being used for the same purpose or not. Also, it checks if the procedure or the processes followed are in accordance with the established norms or not. That whatever the norms that are established by the CAG to ensure there is full transparency, objectivity, accountability, whether that is being followed or not. Also, the propriety audit, which examines the wisdom and the prudence of the decision related to the expenditure. For example, let's suppose there are 5 companies which are which are supplying or which can supply any one of the component to the government. But government deliberately chose any one particular company whose prices were much higher and the quality of the product was also not very good. In that case, in the propriety audit, the CAG will flag that this is something which hasn't been done. When there are 5 companies which were available, why government especially chosen any one particular company whose prices were high and whose products were also not good? So it looks into the wisdom of the expenditure doing authority. Also, it assesses whether the expenditure is cost effective value of money, because that will help us in saving the resources of the government. It also identifies the instances of the wasteful expenditure which was done, and inefficiency and the mismanagement. For example, 2G spectrum case, the coal scam which was there, the fodder scam which was there. Also there has been scams which were recently unearthed involving the expressway which is being constructed, especially regard to the Delhi Mumbai expressway. The performance audit, which looks into the economy, efficiency and effectiveness in receipt and application of the public funds. Also, the comprehensive appraisal of the progress and efficiency of the execution of the developmental programs which has been launched by the government, which is being run by the government, how efficiently they are functioning. Because the functioning, the progress of those projects will also determine that whether it will lead to further expenditure or not. So why this propriety audit which is being conducted by the CAG generally matters a lot? Because this ensures the public accountability. It holds government official accountable. It ensures that government's officials are using their wisdom properly. They are ensuring that they are following a path which is leading to a reduction in the wasteful expenditure of the government. Also, it leads to efficient resource utilization, that it helps in identifying the inefficiency and the wasteful practices which is being followed by the government. It also helps in optimizing or the better utilization of the resources that is with the government. Also, it improves the public service delivery. Also, it helps in better policy recommendation that can be provided to the government, with the help of which they can further optimize their resources, with the help of which they can further minimize the resource wastage. Also, it helps in strengthening the governance, that it promotes the good governance as well as the citizen-centric governance, and it also helps in discouraging the corruption, and it also ensures the accountability of the bureaucracy towards people. So what are the limitations of the CAG? First of all, the most important is the post facto audit, that it is mainly limited, its role is mainly limited to examining the past actions, the expenditure which is done already. In that case, they cannot undo what has been already done. They cannot bring that resource which was already utilized. So their role is mainly limited. Whereas if you compare to the British model of the CAG, again they have the role of the Comptroller also, where the CAG also control and authorizes the spending before actually it is happening. Also, the limited powers with the CAG, that they lack the enforcement mechanisms for the information. And subjectivity in propriety audit, that the interpretation, that whether what constitutes the prudent use of the resources, what constitutes the wisdom of the government, that differs from interpretation to interpretation. So obviously this subjectivity involved in the propriety audit further creates issues with the implementation of the various recommendations of the CAG. Also, the timely audit reports, there has been various delays in the report submissions as well as the implementations of those reports. Also, the CAG have resource constraints, they have the insufficient staff and the budget for the comprehensive audit mechanisms. Also, there has been various vacancies lying in the office of the CAG. Also, the complex financial system with the more technological integration, AI, machine learning, etc., with more use of technologies and new types of frauds that are happening, it is further creating difficulty in auditing the modern financial instruments, new type of financial instruments that are coming. Also, the political interference, time and again there has been reports of the potential pressure from the government officials. Also, the public perception that misinterpretation of the audit findings by the media and public further creates the limitation in the effective implementation of the works of the CAG. So what should be done? What is the way forward? As per Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he said that the CAG shall be the most important officer under the Constitution of India. There has been little attention paid to the office of CAG as compared to other posts and offices as mentioned under the Constitution. But it is an office of utmost importance and relevance. It is the high time to make relevant reforms to make the functioning of the CAG more transparent and efficient. For that, there is need for enhancing the technological capacity of the CAG. They should be provided with the better technology so that the complex financial instruments, the complex auditing mechanisms which are coming, they can be tackled well. Also, there is need to strengthen the audit workforce. We need to recruit the skilled manpower. We need to recruit the skilled professionals coming from different arena, for example, CAs, CS, etc., who have the diverse expertise. They can come with the better knowledge which can further ease down the process, as well as that can make a better, transparent, objective and effective auditing process. Also, there is need for expanding the audit scope, that there is need to include the emerging areas like cybersecurity and the climate finance. Also, there is need for ensuring that the reports are being published in a time-bound manner. That will help in expediting the report release for the quicker actions. That actions can be taken in a time-bound manner. Also, the public awareness campaigns, that there is need for educating citizens about the CAG's role and its finding, because when there will be public pressure, obviously there will be better utilization of resources. So whenever there is a report that is coming by the CAG, people should be informed about that with the proper media publishing, etc. Also, there is need for inter-agency coordination. Different agencies of the government whose accounts are being audited, they need to collaborate in other oversight bodies for the comprehensive scrutiny. For example, the ED, etc., which are also looking after the misappropriation of funds, etc. So when there will be interagency coordination, that can yield better audited results. This is a mains practice question from this topic that you people can write. In our simplified section, the first topic is a second 1991 movement. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, planning, mobilization of resources and liberalization. Also, this has appeared in today's The Indian Express, page number 14. So the editorial is mainly talking about the idea that with every problem there comes an opportunity. For example, when COVID-19 pandemic came and it led to strict quarantine measures, it led to strict lockdown measures. The zero COVID policy of the China, which led to further supply chain disruptions, especially the global supply chain disruptions, and our industries who were dependent on the raw materials for different industries like pharmaceuticals, etc., photovoltaic modules. So when the raw material availability was impacted due to global supply chain disruptions, obviously India has launched various schemes, various packages like the Atmanirbhar Bharat package, under which there was PLI scheme for the manufacturing industries, where the incentives were provided to the companies based on the incremental sales, and it was mainly launched to address the global supply chain disruptions. There was agricultural infrastructure fund that was launched to address the supply chain disruptions in the agriculture sector. More than that, the China Plus One strategy that was being followed by the global businesses to diversify the investment other than China to other countries. There again government launched various schemes like Make in India, etc., to attract the investment. So with every issue or every problem that is coming, there comes an opportunity also. It is up to us that how well we are leveraging or how well we are taking benefits of that opportunity. So with the recent trade wars that are going on, the writer is saying there comes an opportunity that when there are trade wars that are going on between the US and the China, the companies are looking for the one of the destinations from which they can import the products in the United States, from where they can do their investments. But that would be possible only when the trade policy of the India, industrial policies of India would be made better. It will be industrial friendly. There will be ease of doing business. There will be lack of bureaucratic red tapeism. And for that also, the writer says that his belief is that the precious little to do with the economic logic, that whatever the trade wars that are going on, they have to do very little with the economic logic. And they had everything to do with the political economy. That is the China's long game as described by Rush Doshi, which was the director in charge of China-Taiwan in Joe Biden's National Security Council. That what they say is that the US, whatever he is doing is not only to dent China economically. Rather, what we have seen that after the World War II, that the contribution of the US, especially in the manufacturing sector, especially in the supply of the global goods and services, was very high. But what happened slowly and gradually when China has done various reforms, when they have significantly used with their manpower, their demographic dividend to ensure that they become the major participant in the global export, and that they obviously they were able to do, especially after the 1996 reforms. So what happened that to actually ensure that the China's contribution in the global exports can be decreased, and it is the US and the other countries can take lead in the contribution of the exports, is one of the logic of these tariffs that were imposed by the US is being said by the writer. And it says that in 1996, 18 years after the China began its economic reforms, China's the manufactured goods export share was just 4%, and today this share is 30%, with the rest of the world richer and more advanced than it has ever been. When the countries will be overly relying on the exports of the China, obviously it is the Chinese hegemony that will increase in the global world order. So that is the reason to address that these tariffs were imposed, so that other countries can participate further in the global exports and the reliance on the China can be decreased. But for that, across the different sector, whether it is the labor reforms, whether it is the investment reforms, all that needs to be addressed well. For example, the bilateral investment treaty reform which was done, that required that if the two firms, one domestic and one foreign, wanted to divorce, that they want to separate, they would have to go to an Indian court for the terms of disengagement. That if there is a company, obviously if they do not want to further move towards their company or the investment that they have or the business that they were running, they have to knock the doors of the Indian courts. Now just think that any of the investor who is coming in India, do they really want to go into the litigation process, or would they like to go into that litigation process? Obviously no. So obviously this is not a investment friendly policy. This is not leading to ease of doing business. So this is one instance. There are various reforms that needs to be taken. For example, there should be a policy coherence. For example, the LPG reforms that we have done, where we have liberalized the industrial policy, where we have the privatized various public sector undertakings, where we have also ensured that we are participating in the global supply chain. We have integrated very well. So the LPG reforms that were done, again, that was an issue at that point of time, the balance of payment crisis that was there, which the foreign exchange reserves were not sufficient to cover more than 2-3 weeks of the imports. So that crisis came, obviously India went for the LPG reforms, and which further improved our GDP growth rate. It had helped in further coming with the global investment in India. It also helped in creation of various jobs in India. So similar kind of issue or the new challenge that is emanating out of the tariff wars that are going on between different countries, there is high time that India invest or India look after various reforms that it can take, especially ensuring that India's contribution in the global exports can be increased. For example, as per various media reports, the manufacturing or the assembly of the iPhones are going to be increased manifold, especially which is being done earlier from India itself, because of the high tariffs that has been imposed on the China. So if we can provide a proper policy related to the land acquisition or the buying of the lands, we can simplify the labor reforms, we can ensure that a better or the improved mechanisms can be provided for the litigations. Obviously it will help us in increased investment in our India. So what exactly is the bilateral investment treaty? They are the international agreements which establishes the terms and conditions for private investment by nationals and companies of one state and other states. And world's first BIT was signed between Pakistan and Germany in year 1959, and India signed its first BIT with the UK in year 1994. And with the India one of the top country or the destinations where FDI are coming, so much of investment is coming, BITs can actually help us in solving the litigations in a proper manner. So what are the objectives of this bilateral investment treaty? The investors state dispute settlement in a time bound manner, development of international law standards, that whatever the litigation laws are there, they are in sync with the global standards, monetary transfer provisions, how the investor can sell their assets or their investment and they can leave the country without much hassle, and the most favored nation, that there is no discrimination by the country between the different countries. Also there is fair and equitable treatment that is happening. All these are the objectives of the bilateral investment treaty. Next topic is the factory output growth slows to 6-month low of 2.9% in Feb. The Index of Industrial Production IIP data, which is released by the NSO, has said that the factory output growth has slowed to 6-month low of 2.9% in the February. And this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, growth and development, and this has appeared in today's Indian Express page number 17. So it said that the index of industrial production had grown 5.2% in January this year and 5.6% in February 2024. And manufacturing output, which accounts for 77.6% of the weight of the IIP, also slumped to 6-month low of 2.9% in February from 5.8% in January and 4.9% a year ago period. Also, the mining, electricity and growth in output of the capital goods, all that has been impacted. This is the data with regard to the mining, manufacturing, electricity, capital goods and the consumer durables. So what is this IIP? So main purpose of this IIP is to measure the overall industrial production, especially of the manufacturing, mining, electricity. And they mainly cover 3 broader sectors, the mining, manufacturing and the electricity. And it represents the 100% of the industrial output. Whereas there is another index of the 8 core industries, which tracks the production of 8 key infrastructure industries. And it have a narrow coverage as compared to IIP. Also, the 8 core industries make 40.2% of the IIP. In the IIP, we have the manufacturing, which have the major component, almost the 77.6% composition is of manufacturing itself. Mining has a composition of 14.4% and electricity has a composition of 8.0%. Whereas if you talk about the 8 core industries, which have composition of 40.2% of IIP. So we can say that IIP is a bigger set and the 8 core industry is a subset of the IIP. In the 8 core industries, there is coal, which have 10.33% contribution, crude oil 8.98%, natural gas 6.88%, refinery products 28.04%, fertilizers 2.60%, steel 17.92%, cement 5.37% and electricity 19.85%. There can be an ascending or the descending order of these contributions that can be asked in the prelims examination. Next topic is that our Honorable Minister of Railways has announced the KAVACH 5.0 system to increase the Mumbai local services by 30%. And this is related to your GS paper 3, infrastructure achievements of Indians in science and technology, and this has appeared in today's Indian Express page number 5. So the context is that in a major step to upgrade the Mumbai's suburban train travel, which is one of the hearts of the Mumbai's transportation system, and Union Minister for Railways, Ashwini Vaishnaw, on Friday announced that KAVACH 5.0, latest in the series of automatic train protection system, will be implemented to increase the number of trains by 30%, and currently KAVACH 4.0 version is under the implementation in different parts of the Indian Railways. So this KAVACH actually aids the loco pilot in running the train within the specified speed limits by the automatic application of the brakes in case the loco pilot fails to do so, and also helps train to run safely during the weathers which are not very conducive for the transportation. Also, you can say that it is an indigenous automatic train protection system for enhancing the safety of running trains developed by Indian Railways. How exactly is this function? Actually, it have a set of electronic and radio frequency devices which are installed in the locomotives. These are the locomotives, engines you can say, where it is installed. And in the signaling system as well as in the tracks, as well as on the tracks, there are different equipments that are installed. And they talk to each other using ultra high radio frequencies to control the brakes of the train and also alert the drivers. That when there are radio antennas and from these locomotives are connected to them, the GPS, the positions of these trains are also well tracked, well connected under the system. And if the red signal is jumped or 2 trains come face to face on the same line, the technology automatically takes over and applies the sudden brakes on the trains to avoid the collision. So this is an traffic collision avoidance system, because generally what we have seen that there has been various instances of human error which happened, that it is the loco pilot who could not see the signal properly, or at the railway station there was some mismanagement with regard to the signals that should be provided. So with this automatic traffic collision avoidance system, which has been connected with the radio antennas as well as the GPS, the locations of the trains can be tracked well on the tracks. And if the 2 trains if there are chances that 2 trains will come at a face off, the automatic brakes can be applied, as well as the loco pilot can be alerted well. So that is all what is about the KAVACH system. Next topic is about the mutual fund, and the context is that equity mutual fund inflows sink to an 11-month low amid the market volatility that is there, especially on account of the trade war which is happening. More than that, the rupee which has depreciated much, that has also led to a high selling of the foreign portfolio investment in India. So that is the reason people have actually resorted, or the mutual fund as an investment has gained less attraction in last 11 months. And this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, capital market, mobilization of resources, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 30. So the context says that net inflows into the equity mutual fund schemes in March declined to 14.4% to 25,082 crores amid the global market shocks. Data from the Association of Mutual Funds in India showed. Also, the inflows have been declining for 3 consecutive months and was in the negative for half of fiscal year 24-25. And the number of contributing SIP accounts has been reduced to 8.11 crore in March from 8.26 crore in the previous months, because of the decreased or the loss that people have seen in the mutual funds. That is the reason why there has been less inflow, as well as the closing of the accounts was also witnessed. And this is a general trend that you can see of the various contributions that was being done in the mutual fund. So what exactly is the mutual fund? Actually, this mutual fund is a kind of investment where it works by pooling money from the multiple investors and then investing it amongst the different securities. As a result, it provides greater liquidity, diversification, and the lower risk. For example, as of now, let's suppose you have 1,000 rupees, okay, and you want to invest in the stock market. But you think that if I will invest my whole 1,000 rupees in any of the stocks, it might lead to loss, and I may have to lose money. More than that, if I will use whole of my money in this one stock itself, there are high chances there will be volatility in this stock that can lead to increase or decrease prices of this stock, and I may have to bear a loss. And more than that, you also think that 1,000 is a very minimal amount. I will 10%, if there is a stock movement, obviously I will be able to get only 100 rupees. And you think that it is not put, and a lack of knowledge is also there, that which stock to choose, how to choose everything. So that is the reason here the mutual funds come into play, where there is a mutual fund manager who pools money from the different investors, and then he invests that in different stocks, and he do not keep his investment, the mutual fund manager do not keep the whole investment in one stock or one sector. Rather, he tries to keep it diversified so that risk is minimized. Because if there is policy change that is happening, if there is new law that is happening, new law that is coming, so obviously it might impact any one sector. Or let's suppose there has been various tariffs that were actually imposed on the pharmaceuticals or any of the specific industry. So obviously the stocks of that sector will be much impacted. But if the investment will be diversified across different sectors, that will lead to less loss that as compared to if the investment is happening in any one sector, in any one stock of the company. So there is the mutual fund manager is pooling money, the small amount of money from different investors, and then they have invested across different stocks, and whatever the returns that they will be generating, that they will pass on to the different investors according to the proportion of the money that they have actually contributed initially. And the mutual fund manager generally keeps some part of that money to themselves itself. So the various benefits of this mutual fund is that it is affordable. People can invest even a small amount. It is diversified across different sectors, across different companies, so that risk is minimized. Also, it is professionally managed. The mutual fund manager have a lot of experience in managing the stock market, or looking after. They have a lot of expertise. They have a lot of knowledge. So obviously, there are high chances that the money would be much safer as compared to the persons who are directly investing in the stock market without much knowledge. Also, it is well regulated by the SEBI. That also ensures that the money is safe. There are another type of investment, that is exchange traded fund or the ETF, which actually is an index which constitute different stocks of the companies. For example, the Bharat 22 ETF, where we have the different companies, stocks, and to some extent it is like a stock, that it is tradable during the daytime from whatever the market hours are there, from 9:15 to 3:30. Also, an ETF can be bought and sold whenever the market is open. And it is to some extent also like mutual fund, that there will be a managed fund, there will be a fund manager who will be deciding the stocks in that ETF, and they will also decide the weight that needs to be assigned to different stocks in that ETF. Also, it is a collection of stocks or bonds that are professionally managed. So to some extent, it is also like mutual fund. Mutual fund is generally not available to be bought and sold in the market hours generally, whereas ETF you can buy and sell during the market hours. So this is the basic difference between the mutual fund and the ETF. Our last topic in the simplified section is Democratic Republic of Congo, which has been in news consistently in last 1 year. And what we have witnessed in last few years in the prelims examination, there are a lot of questions which are being asked from places in news. So there are high chances that in this year or in next year, you will get one question on the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is related to your prelims, mapping places in news, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 14. So the United Nations has condemned on Friday the widespread rape of children in conflict-torn Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where thousands were reportedly subjected to sexual violence in the first 2 months of 2025, and the rate of sexual violence against children has never been higher this much. Also, early report shows that children make up between 35 to 40% of nearly 10,000 cases of rape and sexual violence reported in just January and February of this year, he told reporter in Geneva, speaking from Goma. So again, Goma is a city which is there in DRC. You need to remember this. Also, there is this M23 militia group, insurgent group, which has captured the city of Goma. And also, more than that, this Goma, this M23 group, there may be a question that terms in news M23 group, as in recently seen in news, is related to. So it is a militia group which is creating havoc in the DRC. Also, this is the location of the DRC. You need to remember the bordering countries of the DRC. Also, you need to know the location of the Lake Tanganyika, which is there between the DRC and the Tanzania. Also, there are other African countries in the news. For example, Sudan, where civil war, military and the paramilitary rapid forces are infighting. Ethiopia, where there are post-Tigray war tensions are going on. Mali, where the military junta rule and jihadist insurgencies were happening, and that is the reason that was in news. In Nigeria, there was Boko Haram insurgency, separatist movement, election-related violence. Then Somalia, there has been various terrorism-related activities, attacks. And in the Democratic Republic Congo, the eastern conflict with M23 rebels. Also in the Niger, there has been post-coup instability, anti-French Western sentiments. In 2023 examination, you can see that there was a question in the recent year, Chad, Guinea, Mali and Sudan caught the international attention for which one of the following reason to all of them. Please tell me the answer of this question in the comment box. Apart from that, you can see in the 2024 prelims examination that there is this one question that is related to the state places in news. Again, Venezuela was in news. There was another question. Again, the Sahel region, which was in news, there was a question in the prelims examination. So the weightage of international relation, especially the places that are in news and the places specifically from the African continent, have seen uptrend in the prelims examination in last few years. So you can prepare accordingly this African continent as well as the places in news. And we are also trying to cover as much as possible in the Analyst program. That is all from today's Analyst. Thank you very much. All the very best. Keep studying.